On today's episode of Bronze Metalist, we sort of try to talk about Fallujah's 2016 album, Dreamless. I'm sorry, folks, this one's kind of a mess, but hey, it's a fun mess. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bronze Medalist Podcast. My name is Kale, and I am your teacher, your professor, your Mr. Miyagi, and I've got a very special person here filling in for Jaren. He's going to be waxing my car as we go along.
Wow. I didn't realize that was part of it.
Yeah. What are you doing? Why are you not waxing on and waxing off?
I mean,
right
it
now?
is literally like 2 degrees outside right now. So,
My car's in the garage.
Well, that's your problem.
It's also very dirty. Introduce yourself, my boy.
I am Donnie, as he said. My full name is Donovan, and
Yes.
but I'm filling in for Jaren. I'm not exactly sure how in depth he wants me to go about myself.
I don't think Jaren has. Or are you talking to he as in me, or he as in Jaren?
I don't know how in depth do you want me to go about myself?
Tell us something about yourself that we don't know.
That you don't know. You know a lot about.
Well, we
me,
know.
Kale.
I do know a lot of things about you.
But
people know that Jaren is a broadcast major. What's your major? What do you do?
I do music, and I do music education and that sort of thing.
So this will be the first time in the history of the podcast where we've got someone who actually like quantitatively knows what they're talking about.
I wouldn't say that. Quantitatively, I do not know what I'm talking about.
I mean, maybe not in reference to death metal, but, you understand music theory. So there's that.
You never truly understand music theory.
Okay.
But, so I'm a music ed major, and I play trumpet okay. But yeah.
I would say you play trumpet quite well.
Oh, well, I mean, thank you, sir. I've been having 3.5-hour rehearsals for the last couple of nights, so
playing in a opera.
Well, a musical. I'm not in an opera. That was last semester. But
okay.
No, I'm in a pit for the musical, The King and I. I will never do The King and I again.
You were in a pit for a musical over the summer. It's a musical that I built the set for.
You did, and we only saw each other once, which was kind of shocking to me.
I didn't even know you were in town. You didn't. I don't think you even told me you were in town.
Well, I was only in town for the show, and so literally I was in town for like 4 days, essentially for the run of the show.
And then we ran into each other while I was striking the set.
Yeah, you were striking the set, and I was literally leaving less than like 12 hours from that.
Was that Wizard of Oz or
that was Wizard of Oz? Yes.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say we had a different kind of band for Rock of Ages.
Yeah,
that strike was also much longer because that was the final strike of the season, so we had to pack everything up for the winter too.
Right, and I have been a part of that strike because usually I am a part of the last show. No, yeah, rock combo is not exactly a thing I do. I don't play a stringy ding.
You could do if there was like a ska musical.
A ska okay, you know what, Kel?
So ska is a running joke between the two of us. I don't care about ska. like I think it's fine if you like it. I don't want to step on your toes. Yeah, I think ska's fine if that's your thing. I don't care about it. But Donnie, you have some strong feelings about ska.
I don't know if I do enough heroin to be in a ska band. I will say though, I always joke every time I do a musical. I always joke about being in a musical or like not being in a musical, but writing my own musical.
Doing some Lin-Manuel shit.
Yeah, and he is not going to contain rap. It's just going to be singing.
Oh, it's just going to... Okay.
But now that you say something, and there's so many ridiculous elements of my musical at this point that I could add a ska number to it, because why not at this point?
Oh my God.
At some point, I think...
Pick it up! Pick it up! Pick it up!
Yeah. The actors, that's the only line for that song.
That's literally the only thing I know about ska, too, is they say, pick it up, pick it up, hey, pick it up! That's the only thing I know.
And that is like the few forms of rock where trumpet is acceptable. And
Except for that one Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties song. There's some trumpet in there.
Well, then there's Capital Cities too, but that's not really rock. That's more like alt. But whatever. Music I listen to. But...
So yeah, ska. So what kind of music do you listen to? Because Jaron is just kind of a general kind of guy. He likes some hip hop. He likes some pop. He likes some weirder stuff, some pop punk, but nothing metal. And you're kind of in the same boat, but on a sort of a deeper level.
I'm in the same boat. I do listen to I listen to metal, but I listen to metal like I listen to metal like Kale and I probably listen to country, which is to say none at all. Although with
I do work at a place where
that is true.
It is around.
I do forget about that. You do work at a country
I've learned
to you've learned to respect it and
respect it.
And to be honest, Jimmy Buffett is untouchable.
Yes.
That is also a running joke. But my taste in music, I guess I should say my main experience with metal is, I guess, System of a Down, which I guess is probably my broadest. And obviously, Kale, living with Kale for a semester.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. We used to be roommates.
Oh, yes, that is right. We did live together briefly.
Yeah, for a semester.
For a semester.
Before I moved into the place that I'm in now.
Yes, and before I moved into...
And that we met during a geology class. It was a really good geology class. The professor was very intense.
Extremely intense.
Yeah, very very passionate about his subject. Really good teacher.
Very good teacher, but I didn't know you could be that interested of rocks. And to be honest, I'm still not sure. I just know that licking rocks is a bad idea.
It is a bad idea unless you know it's halite, in which case you're gonna get a nice little salty flavor.
That's what he told me to do. He was like, if you think it's halite, lick it, and if it's salty, it's halite. And so we were doing one of the final tests, and I was sitting up front because I had the test set up. I was sitting up front. Normally I sat in the back by my soft boy. And I'm
his soft boy.
Yeah, again, right. Kale
we are each other's soft boys.
We are each other's soft boy. But yeah, so I was put up front, which I'm not a huge fan of sitting up front. I mean, I'm an extrovert, but
who is?
Right? I see people that are, and I'm just like, how do you do this?
It's usually people that can't see. That need more glasses.
That need more glasses than they have.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, so I was put up front, and part of the test, so I was going through it, and I was like, I think this is halite, and I know he was watching me because I lick it. And the look on my face, I'm sure, was priceless. I'm sure the look on my face
was not halite.
It was not halite, and he kind of looks at me and like, it's not halite. Like it was one of those like, and I kind of look at him like, I know that now.
What was it? Like? Did it taste bad? Do you remember what it was?
No, I don't. I don't know. It
was some sort of clear, milky clear rock.
Right. It was something that looked like halite, but it wasn't.
The way I always remember halite was that halite's always in cubes.
Right.
Is the way I remember.
I don't know. It just, to me, it was like and obviously it's a final, so your brain is running with ideas, and literally, I'm sure there was that like 1/8% of my brain that was like,
no, Donnie,
lick it. And,
okay.
And that was the part I listened to because I'm sure you
listened to the minority.
I'm sure the other part of my brain was like, do it. Don't do it.
Donnie, what are you
doing? Donnie,
do not put this in your mouth.
So I lick it, and of course, and I think he brought it up because I'm not a fast text taker, so I'm like one of the last people, and he's like, so how'd that rock taste? And I'm like, not great, mister. Not great.
All right.
But so I guess, but back to my musical taste.
I forgot we were even talking about that.
We started with, but yeah, so I mean, metal wise, I'm not outrageously experienced in, but I'm more of an alt rock, alt pop type of person.
Okay.
Like Muse, a little extra side of Muse with a third side of Muse. If you haven't listened to Muse, do it. And but groups, or I guess I for some reason have an attraction towards female pop singers. For some reason, if it's a female pop star, like, was it Marina and the Diamonds, Lights, people like that. For some reason, I'm drawn towards female singers. Yeah. But then, like, alternative groups like Muse and Gorillaz, which I know are not on par with each other, but are the type of music that I listen to that just kind of out there alt rock.
Fun fact about Lights, she is married to the lead singer of a metalcore band called Bless the Fall.
God damn it, I was just about to say that because I know that, and I was,
I beat you to it. So this album that I chose, which is Dreamless by Fallujah, part of the reason that I chose this album is there's a particular incident while we were living together where I had just gotten done with class, and you had just gotten back from a very tiring
It was
music
actually
conference.
what I'm about to go to next weekend.
Yeah.
Intercollegiate band where it's literally just a weekend of playing instruments. So I was just gone.
Yeah, you were really, really tired, and I was jamming to Fallujah on my way back from class.
Yes, you were.
And I walk in the room, and I was still doing vocals at this point. I was still
Right.
doing like some vocal covers at that time. And I walk into the room, and I close the door, and I made sure I looked at your bed. I looked at your bed, and I thought about it. I looked at your bed, and my brain said, he's not there.
Right.
Let's fucking go to town. So I sang the last verse of The Void
Right.
Alone. And
honestly, I slept through most of it.
yeah, and I only sang the last verse too, so it was
Right.
only like the last 25 seconds or so. And I take my headphones out, and I just hear from the other side of the room. So you'd been home for what, like 20 minutes? Not even?
No, I think I had been home for about an hour.
Or an hour, yeah.
Because I think you had just left for class as I got home. And I was like, I'm going to go lay down. And then Kale comes back. And I definitely knew Kale was there. And it was honestly probably a good thing I didn't sleep. Cause...
Yeah, you had something that you needed to get up and do, which you mentioned right away. Because I was like, oh my God, I am so sorry.
And then I was actually kind of excited you woke me up because, to be honest, I needed to go do something.
Yeah, you had something that you needed to do.
But yeah, I mean, there is a tie to this.
That is why I chose this record. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
So a little bit about the band before we get going. So Fallujah is a American. I guess you could classify them as extreme metal. I'd call them like technical death or progressive death metal. Some of their early stuff is deathcore, depending upon what your view. It has breakdowns and it's got a death metal style, therefore deathcore. But these days there's a lot of
I was going to say subgenres.
Yeah, it's hard to classify them these days. Atmospheric death metal is a term that gets thrown around a lot, referring to these guys particularly because it's kind of a nascent genre.
And that's one thing I was actually going to talk about. As I did like the ambient type of
this
feel to this album.
This album has a ton of ambience to it.
That was really great for me. I don't know, maybe it's just the type of music I normally listen to that just kind of reminded me of it. It was just really.
I kind of figured you would like it.
Yeah, I didn't. I definitely, as someone who normally doesn't listen to this genre of music, definitely enjoyed it. We'll probably listen to it again. Probably something I'd put on my phone. That sort of thing. All right,
cool.
Stuff that would make my on your phone you have a limited amount of space on your phone, so you got to like pick and choose what goes on your phone. Now, obviously, I expanded my memory, so
and I've got and that's what I've been doing to get off track for a little bit. Right. I have Spotify Premium. And so like I can download stuff. Right. I still use an iPod for my music because I like having all of my space dedicated to music and a couple of apps. Yeah, that's always I got some iTunes money for Christmas. Woo! And it was like, okay, what albums do I buy? So I've had this album for a while, and we were talking about history. So they're progressive atmospheric death metal. Right. They were formed in 2010. All of the people in the band at the time were friends in high school. Mm-hmm. There was lead singer Alex Hoffman and
wow, that's a lot of members of the band. Holy cow!
There is a lot of former members. Alex Hoffman himself, who was the lead singer on this album, he left the band a couple of months ago. I never read quite why that was, but I've always thought he was a really good vocalist. So it's kind of like, I think it was one of those things that happens with a lot of bands where, there were people that started playing in high school and you get into your mid to late 20s and you're like, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? Yeah. Do I want to, I haven't gotten a chance to even try doing something else.
Right.
So their first full length album that came out, for some reason, I thought that was an EP. So The Harvest Moons is their first album that came out in 2011. That one kind of had more of a deathcore style to it, but still, it's very Fallujah if you listen to it. Like
I will say the history of the band I don't know a ton about because the only album I've currently listened to is Dreamless. I'm sure once I get more time.
I'd suggest
is to give the rest of it a listen. Obviously, I like this album, so
yeah.
Usually, then I delve deeper. So
I would definitely suggest that you check those out. Then in 2014, kind of the album that put them on the map for a lot of people was the Fresh Prevails. No,
the Fresh Prevails.
The Flesh Prevails came out in 2014. That's a really good album, but there are some production problems with that I started noticing. The compression on it is a little weird. It sounds kind of flat and a little muffled. Apparently, I was reading a review of it a while back, and that reviewer had that same problem. And then he received, like, from their producer an uncompressed copy of the music, so it was, a lot more space taken up. But he said that was, miles better. So I think if Fallujah were ever looking to do a remix of any of their albums, that would be
a place to start.
That would be a place to start with them, because I do like that album. It's just it's really good. It's really pretty, but there's something to it that
issues to it.
There's something wrong with it, and it's nothing technical about the music itself. It's the production, and it bugs me. But this album doesn't have really any of those problems. It's beautifully produced.
Right. That's the one thing I will say is a lot of it was. It just sounded right.
Yes.
Like it just sounded like it was what I mean. I haven't listened to the rest of the band's works, but this album sounded like something that belonged in history, or at least in the band's history, like something that you'll talk about and perform.
This is a significant work.
Yes. I'm glad you picked this one for me, because I didn't at first I didn't know the format, and then you sent me, this is how it works, a little bit of how it works, and you said just listen to this album and we'll talk about it, and I was like, great. And obviously I trust you, and I still trust you when it comes to picking music. You haven't given me a reason to not trust you yet.
I should if you're ever on again, I'll have you. We already listened to a Dillinger Escape Plan record, but I remember I showed you some of their stuff, and you were kind of impressed by that.
Yes, I have listened to it some. I do. I'm originally from Wisconsin, and I have a 12-hour trip to come to
go home
to go home, and so
see the fiance.
You see the fiance. Yeah, I'm getting married. Someone's actually willing to put up with this. Like,
oh, you're not so bad.
Oh, come on. But yeah, so
yeah, as we were saying, this is a beautiful album.
It is.
I think it's some of the prettiest metal
I've
ever listened. The prettiest metal. This is like this is a platinum.
Yes.
This is a very kind of flowery death metal.
It's something
in a
to
sense.
be proud of. It's definitely more of like a hardcore version of like what I normally listen to, where it's technical instrumental, but the vocals are different than what I normally listen to, which I think is something. If you're going to listen to music, to appreciate and just kind of push yourself to listen to other things. And I think that this was a good introduction to that.
So what did you think of the vocals? There are some surprises on this album as far as vocals go, because you've got Alex Hoffman on, extreme vocals. And then he does do a couple like gruff cleans on a couple of the songs. And then you've got Tori Letzler, who is doing these very beautiful female vocals on a couple of the songs.
Yes, and that was actually what I was about to say. Female vocalist, as I had mentioned earlier, for some reason, kind of...
That's your jam.
That's my jam for some reason. I like female vocalists. And talent, they're very good. Very, very good clean, very good cleans for female. And that was what I was about to say. But yeah, even was it Matt Hoffman, right? Alex Hoffman.
Alex.
Matt Hoffman's a skateboarder.
Yes.
Right?
And then there's Matt Huffman, who is our friend.
Shout out to Matt Huffman,
who I just had dinner with, and he was a very gracious not host, because we were at a restaurant, but he paid for the meal, because he's a great he's a great guy. But Alex Hoffman.
Matt. Alex Hoffman.
Yes.
I thought it was obviously going into it being a metal album, I wasn't really expecting too many clean vocals, but what I heard was solid.
You probably would have liked last week's album. It's Dream Theater is a band that I've
Dream Theater. I've
probably been meaning to.
I was about to say I've heard Dream
introduced
Theater.
to you
I've
for
heard
a while.
Dream Theater.
I think I might have like made you listen to some of their stuff.
I think I'd listened to Dream Theater in high school.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's another one.
Surprising vocals on this record.
So yeah, that I will say is like I said, well produced, and I think part of being well produced is having extremely good vocals, no matter what the vocals are.
So let's talk songs, I guess. What was your favorite song? I know what mine is. I really like the first single that they released was The Void Alone, and I had never touched Fallujah before that single came out, and I was, I believe, on the, I can't remember if I was on the regular death metal page or on the deathcore page on Reddit, but someone linked to that, and at that time I wasn't listening to a lot of progressive stuff like I do now. Like now I listen to Opeth and a lot of post rock. That's got really progressive ambient sounds. So this was my first experience with like an ambient death metal sound at all, and this was The Void Alone was my first exposure, so that one really sticks with me. But what impressed you on this?
Well, I do have to agree with you. The Void Alone on that one, very good track. I will say Dreamless, which I know is the track title, and the album title. I thought that was fantastic. I thought it was very well. I thought it was just fantastic.
I don't quite. A lot of the songs on this album kind of bleed together for me.
They do.
That is Dreamless more of an amp, because they have a couple ambient interludes. Is that one of those, or is Dreamless like a full length song with vocals?
Well, it's 6 minutes and 18 seconds long.
Yeah, it's a very long song, but I can't remember if this was more of like an interlude one or
into more of its own category. Now, obviously, I'm not entirely clear. I tried to treat every single one as their own thing. Now, I probably should have treated the album as a whole, but yeah, that was. It's more. It does go with that ambient type of feel. Obviously, there's words and things. English is a difficult language. What was I gonna say?
There's vocals, or
there's vocals in it, I believe, right?
Let me pull it up really quick.
I was about to say I got it right here.
Okay. Yeah, just kind of go into the middle of the
track. It goes into that ambient, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you can turn it off.
But yeah, that type of thing is, I mean, again,
there's a lot in the we just listened to a clip of it, which I probably edited out.
Right.
There's like whispers in it, and this album feels ethereal.
Yes.
I want to say
yep.
I think that's a good adjective for this. I keep on thinking of pretty, and that even qualifies pretty. With the album art. God, the album art is absolutely beautiful. Right. I looked up the artist that did the album art. I can't remember who it was, but he's got a collection of just these really, really pretty like space beings. And I started going through a lot of that stuff. I believe he did the album art for their previous album as well. I don't think I think those were original pieces of his that the band just selected.
Borrowed, right.
They selected and contacted him, and the original piece for the album art of Dreamless looks a little bit different. So I think they said, "Hey, we really like this painting, but we'd like a couple changes made to it, and we'll pay you to obviously giving him royalties
right.
or a one-time fee, probably organized by their record label." These guys are on Nuclear Blast, by the way, which is a really big extreme metal label. They have a ton of bands. One of my other favorite bands that is on a Nuclear Blast is Nails. Super simple title. One of my other favorite bands that's on Nuclear Blast is Nails. They're like a grindcore power violence band. I'm wearing a band shirt for one of them that's on Nuclear Blast right now. It's Despised Icon. They're a really good deathcore band that's on Nuclear Blast. Lots of good people on that label, and this is again unrelated to Fallujah. I guess we're getting off topic, which is fine.
We're really good about that.
Yeah, we're really good about that.
I feel like
last week was too organized.
We brought Donnie in to bring out the organization.
We brought Donnie in to shake things up. Every time I go to Warped Tour, I always stop by the Nuclear Blast tent, and every year, whenever you buy a shirt, or at least every year I've gone to the Nuclear Blast tent, whenever you buy a shirt, they give out a free drawstring bag. And they're like they're lime green, and they have these really cool designs on them. And I didn't realize until I got home from Warped Tour this year that I thought I just got the same drawstring bag again, but it's a different design every year, which I think is really cool at their Warped Tour merch table. So this year I got my Despised Icon shirt. And the year before that I got a Nails shirt. I think I also got. No, I bought the Carnifex shirt from Carnifex's tent. But at any rate, Nuclear Blast is if you're into extreme metal. And you're like, I want to check out a label that has a lot of good bands, because some people do that. Some people organize their bands by label, and they'll just check out a label and see what they've got to offer. Nuclear Blast has a lot of really good extreme metal bands, like Fallujah, which is ostensibly the subject of this podcast.
I mean, it is, and it isn't at the same time. I don't know. Yeah. It is, and I'm sure we'll be more organized if I ever fill in the future.
Yeah. So real talk for a second. I had kind of a busy day today. I was doing some photoshopping not for school. I was making a character token for a D&D game that I'm playing in. But I was like working on that all day. Right. And then I got done with that, and then Leaf and I were watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is hilarious.
It is a very good show.
It is.
Other shows are available, but that's a good show.
So I feel like we should talk about Other Blank is available for a second.
Other Blank is available.
We used to do
a podcast, and other brands are available. I actually later learned why I remembered that. It's actually an old Yogscast thing that they used to do on their podcast.
Okay.
And they still do it, I guess. Yeah. But I guess. And I don't know. I thought I had created it, and then I was listening to the old Yogscast.
It was just something that kind of got into your brain.
It was just something that got in my brain, and I forgot about it because I used to listen to the Yogscast all the time, and then they stopped doing a podcast. And I was watching something, and then Lewis or whatever said other brands are available, and I'm like, oh my god, that's where I got this. And we didn't even.
So that podcast has since been
unfortunately
deleted.
That was fun.
It was fun. It was fun.
It was just I was hard.
It was a beautiful mess too.
Well, and that was the thing. And there's so much. There's so many memories.
It was a sick puppy, that podcast.
It was a sick puppy.
So that the other brands are available. That's where that came from. So we were watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and then I went to dinner, and so it was a friend of ours that lives in Moorhead, and I had never met her in person. Because I've been playing, D&D with her and this entire group for about a year, and I hadn't met her in person. And she was in Bismarck for a work conference, and she was like, "Hey, I can meet you guys halfway at some restaurant, and we can get dinner." So it's like, "Yeah, you're one of my best friends now, and I haven't actually met you in person, so yeah, I'll go and do that." So we had a lot of talking to do, and I didn't write any notes. That was the purpose of that story, was to explain
why we're unprepared. Well, I can explain why I'm unprepared, because I got asked the day before my first rehearsal. I'm currently actually tomorrow night, which I'm sure will post-date this show and whatever and make me feel old. But
this is coming out on Saturday. We're recording on Wednesday night.
Already be two shows deep at that point. But it's the musical's The King and I. If you've ever heard it, don't listen to it. And it's not a bad musical itself. There are good parts of it. I just think the musical as a whole is kind of a dud.
I guess. I don't know.
It's Rodgers and Hammerstein, so it's obviously, but it's one of those musicals I think got lost with time.
Okay.
As time progressed, dated. It just kind of died. A lot of the references and a lot of the jokes and a lot of the things are just kind of dated. Yeah. And to me, and it's not saying that we're not doing it justice, and it's not saying it's an absolutely horrible musical. It's just
is your guys' production of it good? Yes, at the very least.
At least as far as I'm concerned, the sexy first trumpet player, which happens to be me, has his part kind of down.
Doing a good.
We're actually on the Dark Knight or the Dark Knight, not the movie. But
I was gonna say, what does that
at least how we do it at the university is they have rehearsals, then they bring in the pit like a week and a half before. Mm-hmm. We do rehearsals with them so they can kind of get used to having us below them, and then excuse me, I just ate a Grand Mac before this.
A Grand Mac?
From
oh yeah, those are from
McDick's. They're basically
when did those come out? That was like a year ago, wasn't it?
They came out like a year ago, and now they're bringing them back.
The Grand Mac. Okay, I had a bacon cheddar burger at the Totten Trail, which is between here and Bismarck, and it's a really good restaurant. Their food is delicious. Their fries are absolutely great.
Fries is something that you can really easily fuck up, but you can
when you do them well.
But yeah, when they're done well, they're just
a local Minot reference, I guess. I think a fair amount of people that listen to this podcast are from Minot. If you haven't gone to Ebenezer's, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah. True.
We're gonna pull. So there's another podcast that I listen to on occasion that's called The Boogie Monster, which is hosted by comedian Kyle Kinane. Or there's two comedians on there. There's Kyle Kinane and Dave Stone, and they spend technically the podcast is about like cryptids and like conspiracy theories, but they usually spend the first 45 minutes of a 1 hour podcast talking about food they ate. In the last week.
So kind of like how we spend 98% of the music podcast talking about the thing we're not
talking. But... So you mentioned that The King and I is dated, but you know what's not dated? Dreamless by Fallujah, because it came out in 2016. Yeah, it came out in 2016.
Ooh. But yeah, so anyway, so I've had rehearsals, 3 to 3.5 hour rehearsals every night. So I'm a little burnt out.
Yeah.
And so technically tonight is the dark night for the show, which is just the night where
you don't have a rehearsal.
And actually they canceled band today, which is nice because that means I don't have to touch my instrument, which is nice as a trumpet player for those of you brass players and those of you non-brass players out there. Brass hurts occasionally, and when you play it a lot and you have days where you're playing 6 to 7 hours a day, your face tends to hurt a lot. So
all that flapping around
I have a nice break.
All that flap in your lips too, you know.
Yes. So the nice thing is I have a day off to just.
And now you got to come and do this shit.
And this is I'm actually happy to do this shit, so it's fine. But yeah, so that's my excuse for not being as prepared. Okay. It's not saying I haven't listened to the album. I've listened to it once. I've listened to it twice all the way through, and then I've listened to bits and pieces of it.
I believe you.
But obviously there are things where I.
Let's get back to it then for a bit here.
Enough excuses.
So the reception of this album was pretty warm. According to Wikipedia, it got 4 out of 5 stars from AllMusic, 9.2 out of 10 from Metal Storm, and Metal Sucks gave it 4 out of 5 stars as well.
Wow.
So yeah, pretty well reviewed album.
Yeah, that's really well because I'm on Hungry Metal Guy and he gave it a 3 out of 5, and I'm like,
which is that's still positive.
That's still positive, but that's way lower than I would anticipate for this. Obviously, he probably doesn't like the ambience of it.
And I had read some reviews when it came out, and some people were a little ambivalent about this album is kind of pretentious. I will freely admit that I kind of like pretentious metal. I sort of realized that a couple of weeks ago when I was having a conversation with one of my other friends about music. I do get pretentious about my metal because in my immediate group of friends, I'm like the only guy that likes this sort of stuff. So I can be pretentious about it because there aren't a lot of other people around me that will call me out on my bullshit. So I tend to get away with it, but I also tend, other than like my very close friends and or roommates, I also tend not to like shove music in people's faces, so it's not something that comes up in conversation a lot.
What? You shove music in roommates' faces? I don't remember that.
Yeah, you don't remember that at all.
No, that was fine, and honestly, stuff I still listen to.
Expanded your horizons.
No, it just gave me stuff I still listen to. So I mean, I've always said good music is good music. So,
and I would agree,
regardless of the genre, and I think that's, I do think that is a problem, and I notice it, when you are a music major, people try and ask you like, oh, is this good or is this not good? And it's like, if it sounds good to you, it's good. It obviously there are things that I think is good, and that's
that's absolutely what it comes down to. I would argue that there are a couple objective things about music, like production can be an objective element. It sort of depends on what you're going for, because to me, I guess if I listen to a grindcore record, I'm not expecting perfect, clean, beautiful production like we saw on this album.
On this.
Yeah, if I'm listening to Pig Destroyer, I don't expect something like that. But I know when to expect good production, and it's something that I absolutely judge on. and something that I think is an objective quality. And
Oh,
if you're going with clean singing, I think ability is an objective quality there.
It is.
I think you can judge on songwriting a little bit and song structure.
Well, songwriting, that's just a big thing.
Yeah.
That's all, I mean, at least in my book, that's always a big thing. Like, is it something that actually means something to you, or is it just something that you're just like, I pooped this out right before I sang it? Like,
and there's lyric, and for songwriting, you can talk about lyrics and you can talk about the actual, arrangement of the music. And for me, when it comes to like simple can be fine. I often associate more complex with being better. I like faster and more complex things typically, but I also am really into post rock, which is, you've got 10, 15 minute, sometimes 20 minute long tracks that are very slow, but there's a lot of interesting things going on. I've talked about this with Jaron a lot, and I feel like I should reiterate it as much as I can. To me, if an album does something interesting, something new, and something creative, then I will like it really no matter what genre it is. And that's what doesn't attract me to a lot of stuff you hear on the radio, because a lot of that stuff is popular because it appeals to the broadest category,
to the masses,
and
yes.
In order to do that, you often are not allowed to try things that are new and creative and risky.
Right. And that goes to the thing of like, they this generation's pop music is the
whoa.
That sort of thing, that to get technical and to get into basic music theory, the major third, that sort of thing.
The millennial whoop, as they call it.
Millennial whoop. Yes, they even have an entire playlist of it on Spotify. And I will agree with that, but every generation has its thing.
Every generation has had the same arguments.
But the hilarious thing is that every generation's parents, the generation before them,
precisely,
hates the new pop music.
Yep.
And thinks that their pop music is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And my favorite thing about being a music major is you can just go to those people and just be like, hey, your music did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like, and here I can prove it. Like, I can prove it through music theory, and I will say that's nice to be able to prove people wrong, but don't just go get a music degree so you can prove people wrong.
Don't get a music degree to be a dick.
That might be. That's still not my favorite quote this week. And my favorite quote this week, and I'll put it out there, is based off of a song I was playing. I learned playing piano as a Muse song, and it's in D flat major, which is 5 flats. And so I was playing it, and my friend...
This is gibberish to me.
I know it's gibberish to you, but in music, when you have 5 flats at the beginning of a song, that's what it is. But the hilarious thing is, we were talking, and my favorite quote that we came up with is, I was like, I love... All you need is 5 flats, and then my friend Reese goes, and a throbbing erection, and I'm like, this is now my favorite thing.
All you need is 5 flats and a throbbing erection.
Love is 5 flats and a throbbing erection, and I was like, that's just how you write it. I can
appreciate that. See, for me, as the argument of like every generation thinks that the next generation's pop music is terrible. Like for me as a metalhead, that's always interesting because like in the 50s, everybody thought that just rock and roll was the music of the devil. And then in the 60s, it was like psychedelic rock and that sort of thing. And then in the 70s, it became punk and the beginnings of metal. And then in the 80s, it became thrash metal.
Yes.
And if you were in Europe, it was black metal, because black metal was not very popular in the States then. And it's still technically not very popular if we're just going by amount of listeners.
In the 90s, you had the boy bands and the frosted tips.
Well, and then I guess if we're going by like satanic sort of influence, I mean, there are some people that would be like, "Oh, Nirvana's a satanic thing," but most of it was focused on black metal and death metal, where like that was when the stories of all these churches being burnt down in Norway reached the United States, and people are like, "Oh, this satanic metal stuff." And the mid '80s to early '90s satanic panic era that still has some people in its grasp, where people like if a soccer mom from the '80s walked into my room and saw my death metal t-shirts and my Dungeons and Dragons book, she would call an exorcist immediately. And that's just
It's so
so
true, though.
ridiculous
It's
to me
so
because
true.
I'm not a religious person, and to me, like, all religions are kind of equally. It's a little bit silly, but I have a lot of respect for people who have the dedication to stick with a faith. But like that
Good George
idea,
Michael song for those of you wondering.
oh, George Michael. No, I'm sad again.
George
He's
Michael's
gone.
where else at? Let's
He's
take a
gone.
5-minute cry break.
Okay, I'm never gonna dance again. But yeah,
And we're back.
if a soccer mom from the '80s walked into my room, it would be it would just be an unholy nightmare.
It'd be hilarious, actually.
It would be pretty hilarious.
If I ever perfect time travel, I will totally send her back to this room and just be like, have her
Look
walk
at
in
this.
right now.
What do you think of this guy with his Walking Dead graphic novels and his Lord of the Rings books over there? If you the listener didn't have any idea yet, I am a gigantic nerd.
I mean, I feel like this entire podcast is filled with gigantic nerds now that I've been on it. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much of a nerd Jared is, but
Jaren's a huge comic book nerd. So.
okay, good. I always pegged him for that, but
Yeah, no, Jaren's a huge nerd too.
Okay,
so
good.
that is a uniting thing about, I think, metal in general. There are it kind of swings one way or the other. You've got sort of some jock type guys in metal, some old school type stuff, but I think generally speaking, throughout the entire history of metal as a genre, it's been filled with a lot of people who are kind of scary looking, but
they're soft.
they are. I mean,
Well,
some of them are
I shouldn't
genuine.
say
Some of them are.
soft.
They're genuinely tough
You
guys.
see them on the
but
streets
they-
and you think that's a badass, but he's walking into like a D&D store.
yeah,
like that
he's
sort of
going
thing.
to, or he's going to, pick up a new comic book, or
Right.
he's, like half of black metal. Like a lot of black metal stuff is very inspired by the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. There's a lot and like fantasy and like Nordic like Nordic stories and that sort of thing. I always say that like metalheads, the average metalhead is probably the biggest nerd in the room. And
I would agree with that.
I think that holds true. So
I mean, I think in the geology class that definitely held true because I would say the two biggest nerds were sitting next to each other and eventually lived together and now do podcasts together. So every once in a while, I'm usually a filler.
and we do podcasts and we play
Because
D&D.
my sweet, buttery, annoying voice,
your sweet, buttery, annoying voice.
That,
All right. Speaking of sweet, buttery, annoying voices, we've both been talking for about 40 minutes now. So
oh my Lanto! Was 40 minutes later.
Yeah. So
Time flies when you're trying to talk about something and completely get sidetracked.
Yeah, we sort of talked about the Void.
Listen
Alone.
to the album. You'll make your
good.
own opinion. If you're just listen to it.
It's a good album. The Void Alone by Fallujah. It's
Yes.
good stuff. If you like this podcast, we usually try to stay a little bit more on topic. This is a special case.
If this is your first time listening to the podcast, go
listen to last week's episode if you want
week's
something
is a little more organized,
a little bit more organized,
as
a little
opposed
bit
to
more
this
structured.
one. I mean, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
probably the least organized person you'll meet. So
Yeah, that's all right. So as I was saying, if you
if you enjoyed this,
if you
share
enjoyed
it.
this and if you want more stuff like this or more organized stuff, please check out the other episodes of our podcast. Subscribe to Bronze Metalist on Libsyn and or iTunes, whichever one you prefer. I'm not sure if we automatically get on some other podcast services, but check us out on those. Check us out. We're on YouTube now. I figured out how to make Libsyn's automatic YouTube upload work.
Wow.
So we've
That was a thing. That's awesome.
Yep, it's I got it all done yesterday, so you can check us out on there. Also, check out I'm starting to do a new music review series on there called Fan Talk. They're short 8-minute clips or 5 to 8 minute clips where I talk about usually a new album. I'm gonna try and get one out every week. And those will be on the Bronze Metalist YouTube channel, which I encourage you to check out. Please like us on Facebook, retweet us on Twitter if you're on there.
And blow up the website if you want me to come back.
Sure, yeah.
Do it.
Tell us if you want Donnie to come back, or tell us,
And even if you don't want me to come back,
vehemently comment your hatred for him.
that's fine. You can comment your hatred for me. There's no way you hate me
you're-
more than I hate me. So.
All right.
College kids, woo!
We've plugged the social media, so
We've plugged the social media. Wait, do I get a plug on my social media? Probably not.
if you've got something that you want to plug, go ahead.
Follow me on Twitter at SuperPenny23. Do it.
Yeah.
Or not. I don't post that interesting of stuff.
Okay.
I don't know.
All
If
right.
you want to do it, please. I don't know.
This is going on long. Surely, this has gone on long enough. That's an Always Sunny reference.
It is an Always Sunny reference.
At any rate,
do we yell memes at the end? Or
no, we don't yell memes at the end.
What? I can't just be like, "Do you know the way?" Somebody touch my spaghetti.
Man, if those memes die out in the next month, that's gonna date this podcast so hard.
Oh, it will. Oh, I'm well aware. And kids,
Oh God,
don't eat Tide Pods.
Don't
Stop.
do that.
For the love of God.
Okay. All right.
Please.
Can I end the podcast?
I suppose.
All
All
right.
right.
So thank you very much for listening. My name's Kale.
My name is Donovan, or Donnie.
Open your eyes, Nicholas.